Patterson Foundation
strengthens people, organizations, and communities by focusing on issues that address mutual aspirations,
foster wide participation, and encourage learning and sharing.
Welcome to Beyond the Blog, a podcast of the Patterson Foundation. Hi, I'm Kiarra Louis, the Patterson Foundation's Initiative Support Coordinator, and your host today to explore and definitely explain the excitement behind Exponent Philanthropy's annual conference, which is happening this month, and the launch of the Momentum Builder Circle. And there's no one better to help me do that than Paul Daugherty, the CEO of Exponent Philanthropy. Paul, welcome to the podcast.
It's such a joy. Thanks so much for inviting me.
And to get started, and to set the context for our conversation today, Paul, can you please share what Exponent Philanthropy is and how it goes about fulfilling its mission each day?
Happy to do so. Exponent Philanthropy is our nation's largest network of philanthropy or association of funders. We represent nearly 1,600 funders from every state in the union and every type of community. We focus on what's called lean funders, which are funders who believe in focusing on lean operations but deploying money in the community. So we represent funders that are under $1 million in assets, that have all volunteer boards, to funders that have billions in assets and they have large staff. And our real key focus is the community connections and providing a space where our membership community can find the tools, the resources, the support and research, but also a supportive community of peers across the country. Because the majority of our funders, philanthropic community in the country, when it comes to organized foundations, are funders that are lean operations. They are based in, whether it's in Sarasota, Florida, Tomahawk, West Virginia, or up in North Dakota. They're doing amazing things with outsized impact.
Thank you for sharing that. I like that you already answered my next question, was going to be defining what do you mean by lean funders, because I did see that a lot on the website. So thank you for also answering that question. But what support do lean foundations or funders often find themselves in need of?
A big focus of ours at Exponent is a lifelong partner. And so it's various, to be quite honest. I always feel like it's a continuum of needs and resources and support. So we work with funders from the fundamental needs of getting started with their Foundations 101, their 990 PS filing, but also to the higher level work that we do around transformational work of philanthropy. And that is how the lean funders are looking at their involvement in the community, their role of engaging and support the community in effective ways, how they're being equitable in their grant-making practices. So on the other end of the spectrum, away from the fundamentals, but it's kind of that whole learning process, is a body of work we call Catalytic Leadership in philanthropy. And that is, how do funders really serve as community partners where they convene, they collaborate amongst nonprofits, business, government, and other sectors. They're then also in a space of the collaborations are looking at how they are centering the work of the community's needs, the people, the places, and the purposes, and then championing that work in multiple spaces. A lean funder might have, $50,000 or $500,000 of grant making to give away each year, but they also have all those other elements of their impact, of the ability to be a spokesperson, to be an advocate in the policy space, to be able to, speak on behalf of their grantees to other funders, and or really think about solving problems for the communities. And so that's where our range of work is so diverse, and our membership is so diverse, because our funders and our membership run from philanthropic families that might not have an official foundation or individual donors to those that have a 90-year-old foundation has been around and passed down the generations, either as a public funder or as a family foundation or private. And their interest in giving runs the gamut under the umbrella of the variety from environment and economic development issues to education and healthcare, social justice, to basic human needs. I could go on and on.
Thank you for sharing that. I like that you highlighted the diversity in those who are part of the membership or part of the network and who receive support from Exponent Philanthropy. So I'm going to loop in the Patterson Foundation, of course, and just if you could just speak on how did that relationship come to develop and how it has evolved to where it is now.
So the Patterson Foundation has been a long-time valued member of Exponent, and so pleased for its partnership with Deborah and the team there. And so the evolution has really been one of that innovation space that Exponent's been building out. And so Deborah and I had crossed paths in some critical work of collaboration in my previous life when I ran a state-based philanthropy serving organization, Philanthropy West Virginia and Appalachia. And we learned a lot about each other's work through the Campaign for Grade Level Reading. And so coming into this role a little over 2 years ago was when I found out Patterson Foundation was a member. I was so excited. It was great to reconnect with Deborah as we had stayed in touch kind of on the outskirts of the work, but also looking from a standpoint of how can we collaborate better at Exponent Philanthropy and partnership building. I look at it as being part of an ecosystem of philanthropic leaders. And so within that is that we can't be an island to ourselves. We have to be really connected. And so the reconnection with Exponent and Patterson already existed prior to my coming here. It's just we've kind of dived a little deeper, knowing that Deborah and the team there is always looking at those innovative leadership opportunities that are entrepreneurship, but also community impact. And so one of my commitments and one of the needs I've heard from members is how can we be better collaborator, connector among other philanthropy serving organizations, other resources out there. So I look at it as how do we develop good roots that connect us to other parts of the ecosystem in philanthropy. And so one of the initial things that we did when I came in was reconnecting with the Campaign for Grade Level Reading that had been an existing relation for Exponent. Patterson Foundation has been a big partner there. And so, how can we bring that into our conference in 2022? We've continued that to current date, but also diving the work a bit deeper about, lean funders. And our vision at Exponent is transform communities to inform giving. And there's such a really robust level of resources and research for the Campaign for Grade Level Reading for any funder that's doing literacy, education, early childhood. And so we started there on that conversation. It just kind of blossomed and said, okay, what else is coming up? What else are things that the Patterson Foundation is doing? And Deborah's been a great advisor to me as I've taken on this role, as well as she's such a great connector of other partners and players. And so we're building out those relationships, not because one member said it, but because there's a need for it. And our membership is requesting it collectively.
Thank you for sharing that evolution of the partnership and diving deeper now. And you really, I don't know if you know this, but you touched on two of TPF's approaches, which is definitely collaboration and definitely connection. And it's something you repeated over and over, because I think those two are definitely critical once you want to make an impact, and you definitely want to help support the membership. So I can see how those two are required. Two additional exciting endeavors that I want to touch upon that the Patterson Foundation is also participating in is, two to be specific, the 2024 annual conference, which is happening this month, and the Momentum Builders Circle. So we'll start with them one by one because they're two pretty huge things that each deserve time in the spotlight. First, starting with the conference happening in probably just next week, I believe. Do you mind sharing how is this year's conference similar and different from what has been done in the past?
Great question. The similarity is that Exponent's membership is a place that decision makers come together with humility and willingness to support each other. It's a very supportive community, and I've been a part of a lot of different philanthropy networks in the country, locally and nationally. And I think what stands out as to a recurring theme is that our staff, our membership, our board are really supportive of how do people in philanthropic roles have the greatest impact in their community, the greatest ability to enhance and enrich place, going back to that transform communities to inform giving vision, is really putting that in place from the technical skills, but the human skills as well, the leadership talents. So with that ability of that continuation is that, most national conferences you go to, when there's breakout sessions or a keynote, there's usually a sizable amount of people who are still meeting in the hallways and talking. The one key thing at Exponent is that people want to go to sessions. They want to seek out the content and learn from one another, and they want to have the structured conversations, but the coffee line conversations or the activities. So that environment continues and is a very strong element of that. And our thanks to Althea Georgantis and Heather Ukrin on our staff, who have done tremendous work around creating the space and the experience. Secondly, is what's a little bit different is that we're continuing to see, higher numbers of attendance again, coming out of the past few years, as well as providing a space for new themes and new issues. So, we have 45 curated breakout sessions over the 3 days, 45 of them. And so those are member proposals and recommendations that come through. So that's a key thing there, that it's member created and informed. But then secondly is that they adapt to what's going on. We're not just talking about the fundamentals or the technical skills of how to manage your compliance and governance and your finances and your investment and your grant making. We're looking at how does the foundation provide leadership around its board's evolution? How are they informing and putting at the table the lived experience of the community and what the community really needs are? And so in this year's conference experience, I mentioned before the Catalytic Leadership and Philanthropy work, is that there's multiple sessions that really lift up not just the skill sets, but this mindset, this leadership practice of how funders are not just there to give money away, but they're to provide a very critical leadership role in the community, not out of arrogance, but out of humility and partnership. One of the other things is that we rotate around the country, and so we really want to lift up the local community experience. Exponent Conference is one where we really invest a sizable amount of money in the local community between the cost and the hosting of the event, but also our members coming in. And so with us being in Austin, Texas this year, is that there'll be experiences with site visits and tours in the community that lift up the challenges and the opportunities going on in the Texas and Austin community, as well as being able for us to recognize and support local businesses. From my standpoint, I'm a bit jealous for our conference attendees. I got to work the event. That's my job. Not complaining about it. But when I look at the agenda and the program's experience, I'm like, I would like to attend this conference. Like, I'd like to be in the rooms and the sessions. Someday, maybe when I retire, I'll be doing that part. But I think, again, that connectivity of building a space of welcomeness, of community, of learning from peers, and that ability to be enriched and it's member driven. But then the other space is constantly evolving. Our two keynotes this year, really excited about. We have multiple keynotes, but two of them is we're having leaders from the Center for Effective Philanthropy talk about what are the trends and things taking place in the philanthropic sector. We're also having those as an ABC presidential historian and also the CEO of the LBJ Foundation talking about the context of our times, leadership from a historical perspective going into the future as to how philanthropy leads, especially being a week after this major election, as we look at philanthropy's role going into 2025. And then we'll also be celebrating and acknowledging our members. We have our Outside Impact Award, and so we'll be doing an interview of this year's recipients, talking about their work, about how they're doing outsized impact in their community. Why we are a national network, a national organization with very strong turnout of 600 plus attendees this year, we're very community rooted. And so these are stories of local lean funders doing incredible work. A lot of them are staffs of, small staff or volunteer based who are there really focused on wanting to see the community to thrive. And so that's one other part. It's like celebrating and lifting up these stories of our members and their work to be examples to others and for them to collaborate and replicate what's working and also be able to identify what's not and to do better in their home communities.
Thank you for sharing that. I think a couple of things that definitely stood out as you shared what's different and what's same with the upcoming conference is something that we often hear here at TPF, which is more than money philanthropy. Funders have definitely more to offer than they're just their fund. It can be just showing up and asking the right questions. It could be convening. It can be connections. Another second thing that came to my mind is the idea at TPF of sharing your cookies. We all have our cookies, which can be our information, our knowledge, our expertise, but sometimes we like to keep them in our cookie jar. But if we want to make an impact, we have to open up our cookie jar and open up our cookies as in our experience and our expertise with others, especially when it comes to what's working. We don't want it to only be working here, but we want it to be working elsewhere and create that positive impact. And I think that's very commendable. It seems like Exponent Philanthropy is really willing to adapt and evolve to best serve what you're hearing your members are communicating. I could definitely see that's going to be represented in the program that's happening. for the conference. So sorry that you won't get to attend as a participant, but very thankful to you and your team to all the work that goes into putting a conference. We're working on a symposium here in 2025, and I've gotten some inside behind the scenes look into all that goes into planning of that magnitude. So thank you already. I know it will be amazing. I do want to also share with our audience that two TPFers have the privilege of getting to present at one of the breakout sessions, and that's going to be Beth Duda, the director of the Suncoast Campaign for Grade Level Reading, and Erica Henry, who is a TPF fellow here at the Patterson Foundation, and they will be presenting Accelerating Change, Cultivating Trust Through Shared Experiences, which will discover how events can serve as powerful catalysts for enduring community engagement. So we are definitely looking forward to all that they've learned and all that they shared once they come back. But I would love to know, what are you excited for, Paul? Even if you will be working the event, what are you looking most forward to?
Well, please know I'm not complaining about working an event. I'm very so excited to be hosting 600 close friends and colleagues. And the Patterson Foundation has been such a critical partner. Deborah's presented in the past, other staff have presented, and the fellows have been there. And we're always so appreciative of members bringing forward their stories and their work. The part I'm an extrovert by nature, so just being in community with our members and hearing about their work, their challenges, their opportunities, and setting that space for them to support each other, to learn, and also talk about how be vulnerable, how do we do these things better in the context of challenges of whether it's local community, regional, state, or national level. I think the other part too is we're going to be rolling out at the conference, and you alluded to this a few minutes, is more publicly on some critical things we've been working on over the past 2 years. One is our refreshed strategic plan. We'll be sharing out to folks during our annual members meeting on Saturday morning. When I came in 22, we had an existing strategic plan that was well thought out, but it was in the context of 2018, 2019. It was launched in early 2020 before the world changed. And so now we're kind of adapting that. And that's one thing our board worked together and passed in July. Another aspect is the momentum builders, is that we are really building momentum over the past several years here at Exponent. The pandemic and the economic decline of 20 to 22 really hit the organization hard. It really hit morale on several levels because it just was a challenging time for us. And so have these wonderful partners who are helping us look at ways that we stabilize and grow. And so our thanks to the Patterson Foundation for making a multi-year commitment around momentum builders, which is an opportunity for Exponent members to make a multi-year investment in our work. Our membership investments are extremely reasonable. As I get told by many members each year, it's the lowest dues out there. And there's such high quality value of what we deliver. And so several members are stepping up. The Patterson Foundation is one of those critical leaders, has made their commitment of over 5 years. That is $250,000, which is so appreciated, to challenge others. And what that is giving us the capital and the focus for us to do the critical work we've already identified. So momentum builders, whether it's $5,000 a year or $50,000 a year over 5 years each year, allows for us to have capital for us to have a quality, skilled, and highly talented staff, to provide a quality program that's responsive to the needs of our members and their communities. And third, really lifting up a focus on that lifelong partnership. We're known as an organization to be a great place to get started in philanthropy, but then a lot of our members don't realize we have those things, whether you've been at it for 3 months or 30 years. We're really there along that way. And so I'm excited to be sharing those messages even more and to announce a number of supporters who've stepped up for momentum builders, but there's invitation for so many more to come forward because the investments allow for us to not only exist, but persist and be able to persist around our vision.
Thank you for sharing that. And for those who are considering that invitation that they're going to be hearing about, especially at the conference, what is the range of annual gifts that they should consider? What is the range, if you can share?
Sure. So individuals are anywhere from $5,000 a year to $50,000 a year on momentum builders. We have a number at the high end, a number at the middle, and the low end. So because our membership community is so diverse, we are able to work with them and respond as they're able to fit within their budgets. And the great thing about it is each gift has been used as a catalyst to challenge others to give. And so when the first gift came in, others started contributing. And so we see this as a great way that it's not just a, I'll give an example is that, when we're in these roles having been a lead funder in the past in my previous professional role earlier in my career, is that you got so many hats you have to wear and costs are always going up. And whether you're dealing with your accountants, your lawyers, your insurance, whatever you're doing, is that, there's those that provide the legal expertise as to how you're legally structured, make sure you're doing anything compliant. You make sure you're doing a good job on your investments and your endowment management. You get that third bucket around doing everything right on the accounting, transparency, and managing. But the fourth area is how do you do philanthropy? The skill set. And while your lawyers and your accountants and your investment advisors can say, like, we'll give a 5% spend, but actually the skills of giving money away are a lot more complicated than one would think. And so being able to be a cost-effective resource for our members, for them to have access to. And so the momentum builder contributions at whatever range someone comes forward allows for us to dive deeper into that work, knowing that our membership dues only bring in less than 40% of our general operating. And so momentum builders is that sustaining force, the wind in our sails, to really not just look at what we're doing for 25, but for 5 years from now.
What are your hopes and aspirations for it, especially as we approach when it's going to be officially announced to the world?
Yeah, I think, momentum builders is really a theme. The word momentum is a theme we're seeing across a lot of things right now. And it sparks energy and enthusiasm, but thinking about things differently and or recognizing what's always worked is some things that we'll continue to do. So I think from our standpoint, where do we see it going is that I think having increased investments from members that's on a rotating basis really gives us a much more stable organization. When we refreshed our strategic plan, one of the missing elements of the old strategic plan was we did not talk about creating a sustainable organization. And so for us to be thoughtful about the work that we do is that it allows for us to build in the stability of the business model at Exponent. It allows for us also to look at other areas where things are going to take place as to how we drive membership support. So it allows for us to talk about our value proposition. It allows for us to improve our talking points in our brand. And third, it allows for us to have that sustaining revenue stream. I think that's the part I'm excited about is when members I've talked with have said, Paul, over the past 3 years, we haven't heard from anybody. We didn't know what's going on. I've met with members who have said to me, no one's really talked to me in 10 years. I've stayed a member and I've gotten some of the resources. So one of our big commitments also is having a human-centered relationship building with our members. And with 1,600 members, it's a lot of people to stay in touch with. But we're figuring out ways to do that because if we're present in community, if we're able to be a partner and people know that we're there as a resource to them, those investments will flow. And investing in Exponent is not just a transaction, it really is an investment in your organization's success. Just like investing in the good legal skills, good investment managers, good accountants, it's an investment in your board and your staff's success. And then having that connectivity of peers across the country. Because we have members who'll say, like, I'm here in North Carolina and I don't really have any other peers in my state that are doing similar things, but I know at Exponent, I've got 6 other peers in 6 other parts of the country I can talk to. So that enhanced value, and again, the biggest exciting part is really creating an experience of lifelong learning that allows for funders to be positioned to transform their communities in positive ways.
Relationships, they take a lot of work to develop them, to maintain them, to cultivate them, but that's really where the magic happens, where you get to hear all these different voices and suddenly all these opportunities present themselves just by taking that time to do the phone call, to send the email, or whatever it may be. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that evolves and how Exponent Philanthropy becomes even better because of all the diverse relationships and maintaining them. But is there anything else, Paul, that maybe I hadn't asked a question about that you wanted to touch or highlight in our conversation today as we come towards an end?
Our industry is sometimes called philanthropy serving organizations. And so Exponent's one of 50 national organizations. And so I think one critical part is there's been some conversation in the past about there's too many PSOs is the acronym people use, there's too many of this. I think one of the critical parts is that every funder should be able to be a member of their local PSO, whether it's, Florida Philanthropic Network, which I know you all are proud members of, or Exponent Philanthropy nationally. But I think the one part is like, take the time to invest in those because they're such a valuable resource to your work. And knowing that investing in these infrastructure organizations is so key for a strong, vibrant local community, but also nationally. And I think another one is that I've really appreciated the resource, the organizational compass that Deborah talks about, of the acronym of LWRCC, is, really leaning into that for us and talking about leadership, willingness, readiness, capacity, and culture. And I think those tools are so critical as to a membership community as well. And, if people are not, people feel like, well, I'm not getting what I need out of my philanthropy sort of organization like Exponent or not, have those conversations with their staff. Because I think that's been the very vulnerable conversations of me being new, of talking to folks, has been so helpful. The good, the bad, and the ugly. But it's allowed for us to shape some new bodies of work. It's allowed for us to respond to the needs. And so as we're in this space, and as my comments start off with, things are shifting, and they're shifting at lightning speed. And so for us to be adaptable, our adaptability only comes from people honestly come forward and share their thoughts. And we can't do everything, but we can do it strong, and we can also do it through partnerships. And that's partnering with other groups like Campaign for Grade Level Reading, Grant Makers for Effective Organizations, whichever. I just strongly encourage folks out there to realize that, as funders, to connect with your philanthropy serving organizations, open doors of how they can partner, and third, be willing to invest. Because this infrastructure is so critical. We saw the value of it throughout the pandemic, and we'll continue to see the need for it for generations to come.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Paul, for ending on that note. And I know our listeners are listening, and we'll take that to heart. Once again, thank you for joining me today. And listeners, if you are a lean funder, we encourage you to learn more about Exponent Philanthropy and check out the 2024 annual conference, which is happening in Austin, Texas from November 14th to November 16th. There you'll find sessions that share the how-tos of catalytic and equity-centered practices, as well as the fundamentals of foundation management. And once again, we look forward to Beth and Erica Henry's session on accelerating change, cultivating trust through shared experience. To learn more and stay tuned, please visit thepattersonfoundation.org.